G'day guys, James here. So today I wanted to give two things, a workbench update to see where I'm at and what I've been up to, and also talk about unfinished projects. So I'm like probably most of you, and I have a few things going on at the moment, both for myself and for other people. I wouldn't say that I'm a hoarder of kits. I wouldn't say I've got a massive stash. I think I've got a fairly small stash. I'll post a picture of it up here in the screen, and it's relatively small. There's some fairly easy kits in there, and then there's some fairly tricky kits, mostly the Dragon ones, and I think the Mini-Art T54, T55. It's been a bit of a nightmare. There's more sprues in there than I think I've got hair on my head, but yeah, I'll bring it out every so often. I'll do a little bit more, put it back in again when it gets too much, and I'll get there eventually. So like I said, I'm probably like most of you, and I have a few unfinished projects where I don't think I'm actively trying to start a new kit each and every time. It sort of just happens. Our local model show, well, model railways, model boats, model ships, everything that we have in Newcastle. We have a club display. I'm in a plastic modelling club up in Newcastle, and for that this year I had a few models on display finished, and I decided to try and build something in situ at the bench, as part of the display, and that was the ME110 from Airfix. I've had it for a while and thought, hey, why not? There's a nice easy kit. I'll try and get most of it done across the duration of the show and try and come out the other end of it with a nearly completed model, or something most of the way to. I ended up coming out with this structure more or less done. Took a Canvas black spray paint primer in on the day and did inside the cockpit, so there was at least a black coat of paint in there. It's not too hard to get some paint inside there. In the ideal world, it would have been an assortment of paints taken in, figured out what I needed, and do it in situ on the day. But look, black paint's good enough. Since then, I've been able to get it a little bit further along to the point where the camouflage is mostly on, the baby blue underneath, or German blue, aircraft blue, the blue, and camouflage is mostly done. But then, at the same time, that sort of sparked the interest in 172 aircraft again. So I had the Tamiya 109E kit in the stash. Yeah, it's nice and easy, I'll throw that together too. And did. And Friday afternoon, a couple of hours, I've got a mostly painted model. Again, black primer quickly on the inside of the body to give it shadow effect, and I can highlight everything else after the fact, but probably again should have gone and really tried to paint it up a bit proper. But the first couple of aircraft I've painted and built up and painted since the late 90s, and even then I think they were Airfix 172 Tiger Moth and a couple of 144th Academy kits, I think they were, or something like that. There was another 110, an Unkers 88, Flying Fortress, I think, maybe Super Fortress, probably, B29, all brush painted, not really much on details, no airbrush, no weathering, nothing major, just throw it together, get it done. First couple of kits I've done in nearly 20 years of planes, and just, hey, this is fun. I'll get that done, throw together a Spitfire. I've got that sitting in the stash as well. I always wanted to do a Spitfire. Everyone's got to do a Spitfire. And yeah, took that to work on a shutdown one day when I had a day that I knew I was going to be relatively easy on, but stuck waiting for something to happen on a shutdown, and threw that together in lunch break. Easy as, again, black primer, spray on the inside, quick squirt. Don't let the safety guys see you painting things on site when you don't have the MSDS for the thing. But goes together brilliantly. Love them. The problem is with the 132 Hasegawa Comet that I've still got, that's 4 planes that I still am yet to finish. It's not for lack of paint. I've got most of it for the 3 of them, for 2 of them at least, and probably most of the Comet. They're ready to go, or I've got something that I could mix up and make something from. Certainly now with the new Tamiya RAF colours in, so RAF, it's XF89, XF90 I think it is. The green and the grey, well that's, you know, that and the brown, it's most of what I need for the Spitty. And I'm not intentionally trying to do this, but it kind of just happens like this. And I'll show you through some other projects that I've got here soon. And this is, again, like I said in my my rehash video back in on January 1st, this is the reason why I want to do this channel. I want to get to a point where I have all these projects and I'm actually got a reason to get them finished. It's not that I'm avoiding them, T54, yeah, well, but I had work commitments, family commitments, and house with, you know, some projects going on around there I like to have a go with sometimes. And then we've had summer. If you haven't experienced an Australian summer, you haven't experienced a summer. Averaging somewhere around, you know, 30-degree temperature days up to 45s, and there was even, I'll try and get the screenshot up on here now, we had a day that was around 47, 48. That was a doozy. The air conditioners kept up, we didn't lose power, but we've had days in Australia where stinging hot day, everyone's trying to use air conditioners and it's too much for the local transformers, and yeah, she goes, and nothing worse. Especially out where I grew up in the country, there's nothing around. There's maybe the town pool, and that's about it. When you've got multiple days in a row and they're approaching high 30s, low 40s, it gets a bit much. Back on topic, easily distracted. Oh well. So I've got a few projects going, and like I said, I'm not trying to not finish them deliberately. It's not that there's the new kit on the market and, you know, I've got to have that, I'm off and building that. I'm not really much for that. I very rarely buy kits. I think I'm probably more buying detail parts, or some of the mini art stuff's bloody amazing. You know, find a way to work that in, but that was more something for the shed diorama that I did. The shed dio was just a never-ending. Every time I'd look again, mini art was bringing out something else, and construction sets and tool sets and all sorts of things that are just working brilliantly for what I wanted to do. They either included details that I was after already, or gave me another angle or something that I could add into it, and hey, oh well. So on top of these, I'll now come across and I'll move these out of the way, and I'll show you some of the other projects that I've got going on. So here's one of my mini art dio bases. This is just the River Embankment wall. Absolutely brilliant kit. Nothing much to it really, but all the extra detail parts that you get in little things like benches, fence sections, all sorts of stuff. Absolutely love it to bits. Only built one section of fence so far, but there's probably going to be more of them. Sort of finish this area off along here somewhere eventually. So this was meant to be representative of the area around Ludendorff and the Remagen Bridge. Hey, look, I couldn't find any reference, anything in a book or anything, but hey, it was, you know, canal defence lights. I know they did use the Lee CDLs there, I believe. Some of the reference material I found said, yeah, they used them there to find the frogmen that were floating down the river in the attempt to blow up the captured Remagen Bridge. So I thought, oh, you know, make the idea of the base here with, you know, this going down with all moss and everything all over it. Just haven't made it there And the CDL itself was going to sit right at place right here, and I'll just go and grab that for a second. And the CDL was going to sit roughly there, thereabouts. And because the CDL has, the spotlight inside it, the LED headlamp that I fitted into it, that obviously only has a certain battery life. So I had wiring made up through an old iPhone cord or an old Android cord, put that 4-pin connector on the bottom, then that would allow me to take the remaining battery pack, or the equivalent of, that I could plug into a USB power pack, put it underneath this, fit the cord through and hide it up behind the tracks and no one would ever really see it, and power up the LED at a model show, just for another level of realism. Unfortunately, I got the tank finished, and that was about as far as I made it. The only thing it really needed, I built it all up, and that's actually, so I gone and built it all up, painted all the cobblestones all the different colours, given it the black wash, and that was about as far as I made it. I was following Hamilcar Barkis's video on making cobblestone road, again with the Mini Art base, so very similar thing. I made it to the point where he said to get a mixture of dust, or powdery dirt, liquid woodworking glue, and some water, and make up like a dusty mix. I literally made it to that point, had the dirt ready, and then something else turned up and I just never quite got back to it. This will finish eventually, hopefully not too far away. Like, again, this is going to be one of those projects that I really am aiming to finish, because I really would actually like to have that sitting in my display case as it is, all finished, all done, and get it at the point where it has all the debris that I want, boxes and things like that laying around on the side, and all those sorts of things. But hey, all things in time. I'll just show you underneath this while I have it. Because they're a vacuum mould make, they're very, very thin and do need reinforcing. So in this I added, what it came with was the base, the stone wall across the front, the stairs, and the detail parts, and that was it. What I did was evergreen styrene around the remaining 3 sides, and then some reinforcing underneath. Now some of these were just offcuts from the styrene that I used to make up the wall around the outside, and just bit of glue, set it up with the regular Tamiya cement or regular model glue. Extra thin's just way too fast, and put it in place, put it all together. A few of the braces, cut them out to make sure this is a step. I don't know if you can see that. There's a step right down in there where one part of the kit comes down. Just step it out, reinforce it in a few different places along the joints, thus. Some little bits of body filler needed to be used on the Mini Art kit. There was a blow through, but hey, look, there's only half a dozen of them. It's not really so much of an issue. It's more my construction and had to do liquid sprue to get it to actually go together and come together tidily. But I'm probably only about 2 or 3 steps away from finishing this. With get the dust on, put a few more detail parts on, and it's done. But again, just haven't quite got there. Another kit, while I'm thinking of it, on 172 aircraft. Yeah, I got a Heinkel, and the Heinkel ain't going anywhere anytime fast. I had a bout of a couple of days of bug or food poisoning or something. I got some time around home to throw it together. It was sitting in the stash and just got it to the point of this. Not really much of anything. You know, the two halves are still not glued together, but brilliant kit, absolutely brilliant kit, because it doesn't feel like any of the older FX 172 stuff. And I'm probably really thinking of the 172 Tiger Moth here, where even with my own lack of skill set taken out of it, it was probably one of my least favourite kits to sort of put together. I got a real soft spot for the Tiger Moth. Being Australian, it was one of our main training aircraft of World War II. I also grew up near Temora, New South Wales, which was a former home of a training facility. And back in 1991 it was, they had a 50th anniversary fly-in of, you know, Tiger Moths and military air show and things like that. And I was able to go to that as a you know, young lad. And I remember just, you know, these beautifully restored biplanes, you know, bright yellow, and all the rigging, and just magnificent aircraft. And locally in Newcastle, we still have it's called Maitland Steam Fest, and they still have a race between a steam train, or multiple steam trains, and Tiger Moths. So it's still, you know, local significance around here in Newcastle, where we still have, you know, a few flying examples locally for joy flights and things like that, and there's other guys that take them out, you know, once a year, get their mates together with all their others, and you know, go for a race against the train. Now, I think the train always has some sort of an advantage, because the Tiger Moth should be able to cover the distance between, I think it's Newcastle and Maitland, in, you know, next to no time, but it's always got to be at certain markers and circle, you know, it's got a handicap, circle around a few times and allow the train to catch up, and yeah, somehow the train always wins, but oh look, it is what it is. But back onto the Heinkel, yeah, it's, would you call this, it is technically started, but it's not that far along, so I'll still hopefully try and get a build video on this one, but might have to just take it from, you know, 3 or 4 steps in, but it's still mostly all here on the sprues. Oh, sorry, one other bit that I built. It's yeah, like I said, absolutely brilliant kit. It just goes together so well until you try and do it on camera, and then it doesn't want to do anything at all. The fit is really, really well done. The mould lines, the quality of the model itself is, I don't know, I used to think Airfix in the mid-90s was still living off Airfix in the mid-70s. And probably some of the kits that I was putting together as a kid weren't up to the modern level of engineering and quality and all those sorts of things. And as such, you know, they lacked in some of the things that you take for granted these days. But, you know, you get what you get, you know. It wasn't much of a call for model aircraft where I grew up. Anyway, I'll move on to the next one. Is Kiwi2 is strong think. So back in 2019 we had the Our Town Model Show coming up, and our club decided that we were going to do some toon tanks and egg planes. We had our local retailer approach us and say, look, we've got some F-35s in egg plane model. The F-35s are just flown into Williamtown, and first two arrived in Australia, and would be based out of Williamtown to work in with that. The local retailer had got some F-35 egg planes, and we thought we'll work on that and have a few of them, you know, between all the different club members, and we'll also get some other toon tanks. Everyone, you know, got their own different variants or egg planes or whatever they wanted, and I got the KB2. Absolutely love this tank. It's a bunch of fun to play in World of Tanks. Love it to bits. And, you know, I'll just throw this together, toon tank, nice and easy. So I got most of the way through making the KV2 and then realised, well, why don't I make a KV222? Now, if you look closely at the icon for this channel, you'll see that it's a black and white picture of a KV2, but it's a triple barreled KV2. It's the KV222. It was just a photoshopped image that turned up online somewhere. Some loon threw it together. I think War Thunder, the online game, has gone and created the KV222 in the game, but let's just say it's not a practical tank. There's no way it ever really would have operated that well in real life. But for a laugh, you know, it's a toon tank, it's, you know, a bit of a play. I had one of our guys in our club do up a rubber mould and you know, do a silicon mould of it for. So I had one of the guys in the club do up a silicon mould of the barrel off this gun, and off this tank I should say, and I got 3 replicas cast. I'll take those, put them all together and make the triple barrel, and take the turret, cut that roughly around that line there, extend it up with a bit of styrene, put it all together, 3 barrels in it, KV222. Slightly ridiculous, but like I said, it's a toon tank, it doesn't really matter. But unfortunately this fell by the wayside with projects that I was trying to get finished for the model show, work, all the other things. It's sitting here patiently waiting its turn in the queue. Actually wouldn't mind getting this done just as a bit of a laugh, because it was done with a bit of a jest originally, and yeah, it's a absolute fun little kit. Absolutely recommend these to anyone that's got grandkids or anyone that just wants something to do on a weekend. Just throw one of these together. They're $20–25 in Australian dollar, probably a little bit cheaper, I think around $10–15 if you get them from Hong Kong. But have a look at them. They're a fun project. Even if, like I said, grandkids, throw one of these together with them on the weekend, with the planes or the tanks or the boats or whatever, just for a laugh. If you want something to do just for a bit of a giggle, just throw one of these together. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This was a bit tight with getting the rubber band tracks around there, but it's as strong as nails. There is absolutely no way that's going to come apart. But the only concern I had was the pin in behind this particular idler. No, it's the drive sprocket on the front. But look, it's been up for 6 months now, I think, near to 6 months, and that's, yeah, if anything, it's probably stretched out the rubber a little bit and made it a bit easier to work with. So again, I'll come back in a sec with the next one. So the next project, I suppose you'd call it, it's a bit of a doozy. I had a mate approach me. He's a bit of a model railway nut. So I'll lay these out one by one. These aren't like you can see, there's quite a number of these kits. They're Ian Lindsay models 1/48 Victorian prototype narrow gauge wagons. There's 3 cattle wagons, a louver van, there's 2 non-sided bulkhead wagons, and a lot of flat wagons with drop sides and stuff. So these kits are resin based. No real issues with putting them together. Absolutely loved putting all of them together. Like I said, Bob approached me to try and get some of these together for him because he had locos that he purchased, but nothing to really run with them, and was getting quite a long way into building the model railway. I hadn't really gotten anywhere with wagons, and he said, "Oh, you build kits, do you, and models?" And I went, "Yeah, I'll do that." Oh, do you want to build some wagons for me? Yeah, sure. Yeah, show me what you got. And so far I've built 3 or 4 other Luba vans. I think this was the 4th one. He's got 3 back at his house at the moment, and there was a couple of other that were very similar body but different, powder vans for explosives. So they were not louvered; they're just all solid sided. I think there was another one that was a perishables van. It was something similar to the powder van. It was a solidish sort of a side, and yeah, got those together to him back in Easter 2019, and now just working through the remainder of what I had to build. A lot of these have progressed quite a long way on, but it's been one of those interesting things that you learn from building models for someone else. How you would like to build a model is not necessarily how they'd like to have it built, and with model railway wagons, with trains and all things tanks and that sort of thing, unless you've got prototype photos to work from and they say this is the exact thing that I want you to do, no two things are the same. There is nothing that is you apply it to this and it's going to be equal to all of them. That's been true of paint schemes, of weathering so far, of body condition and all sorts of things, down to the 3 cattle wagons over here. There's one that's got solid end boards and the other 2 are open, but then between the paints that I've done, this, you can see it's more of a oxide red primer, but I went with a darker red with this other wagon because no entire collection of anything is taken back and repainted all at the same time. None of them are all exposed to the very same conditions throughout working lives and things like that. So you've always got a bit of fudge room, I suppose, with what you can do with them. That got a little bit out of control when I got to all of these. So I had a couple that were fairly well scratched up. Now that's going to be very glossy because it's at the decaling stage. It's all fairly weathered up and chipped up. But then some of the others are slightly more subtle in that it's just the top layer of paint's been chipped off, but then on the inside it's fairly well chipped up, beaten up, rusted up, that sort of thing. Basic hairspray chipping, absolutely great technique for anyone that's needing to know about it. I'll leave a comment below and I'll have a go at making a video on it. There's a lot of videos just on YouTube on it. This here for the steel deck on that, just trying to get it to catch the light the right way. There it is. You've got what would be a steel floor in a wagon that could be exposed to the weather 99.9% of the time. Then you've got a load of logs today, a load of tractor parts tomorrow, a load of something that's put the sides back up and chains slide around in there all the time, scratching up the surface, scratching off the paint. You've got rust coming through, and you can really go to town with the level of weathering. It just depends on what the customer would like, or to what extent they want. Do they want brand new wagons? Do they want perfect condition, no issues, brand new in service, brand new line? Or do they want something that's seen a bit of life? Do they want something that's just the kit just thrown together with the sides and not much else? Do they want a tarp load over the top of it? Do they want removable loads? Do they want some internal plating put on, which was very, I think, 5 thou evergreen styrene sheet, just scribed up, measured up, scribed up, glued down inside, and adds a very simple extra detail when you've got all of these. You just see the slight variation in graduation and slight variation in where it is, well, rust it start in there in the grooves where the weld is and work out from there, and it just adds that little bit more visual appeal. And trying to figure all of that out, it's taken quite an amount of time, and these are very easy kits to put together, but still takes time to clean them all up with flash, get them all together, only work on one at a time, make sure all the parts go together, make sure it fits right. Square corners, being a fairly open-sided wagon for the most part here. They were absolutely chock-a-block full of flash down in there in that resin casting. I'll just try and poke something. I'll just try and poke this in behind. Try and show there's slats all the way through. They're beautifully moulded, but the problem is that there's still some flash ever so subtly in there. Now you could get around a lot of that with it mostly cleaned up. So cattle have been in there, it's cow shed or whatever, but dirt deposits, all those sorts of things. The initial thing is to try and get all of that out, and that's a very time consuming task. Even the floor of it, again, it's a resin casting, beautifully made, absolutely can't say anything bad about it at all. It's just stunning. All the timber and everything all worked in with the detail in it, but cleaning the bloody flash out is a damn nightmare. It takes forever. I figured out a few quick technique, razor saws and file cleaning brushes to really clean that out. You take to it with a scalpel and just cut through it initially, or sand it down just very carefully on the back to thin it down, and then put the file cleaning brush across it and really cleans it up. But it also applies a rough texture on the inside, which if I was able to, I could have highlighted a lot more and really worked with that brilliantly. But it's just a very fun job, but it's very time consuming. So, final word. Unfinished projects. I don't think you could honestly do this hobby and say you haven't done it once. So, final words. What am I going to do about all of these? Well, the model railway stuff is probably it's not an urgent priority. I'm still having a go at some other things around here, but not really much of anything. It's they're probably the immediate priority. Get those finished, deckled, weathered. There's a fair bit involved with the weathering, and I'm probably going to do a video on those. And then after that, well, the Ryefield Tiger's probably going to stay in the cupboard for a very, very long time unfinished. I'd say the next few projects are going to be finishing the Mini Art Dio, because that's a quick, simple enough little thing. Very easy to paint up some extra details. Finish the overall on that, paint up some details, throw them on, damage timber and ropes and tarps and all those sorts of things. And then after that, well, the KV2 is definitely up there, but it's probably a bit far down the line. There's still a bit of structural and scratch building and all those sorts of things to actual building. Whereas all the planes, I'm at the point where those, apart from the Heinkel, they are at a point where I am painting them, and it would probably be better to get those finished sooner rather than later. Might do a video on some of them. If anyone wants to see a video on any of them, I'll throw a comment down below and I'll get onto that one. The painting of the planes is just going to be standard as per the box art, so there's not really much of anything fancy, but it's still going to be a bunch of fun, because I haven't really done much of that in any recent time other than what I've done already on the 110. After that, the next intended steps are to start building more models on camera, whether it be a couple of Warhammer figures, or a flak gun, or Heinkel, or whatever it be. Bear with me. I am going to sort through what I've got and figure out what comes next. I am looking at doing more on camera work, and more filming work, more stuff that's more, it takes a lot of editing, it takes a lot of production, but it's a better quality product out the other end. With the kits, or with the planes mostly built, there's not really much more that I can do with those with, a build video. But certainly a painting video, the Messerschmitt only got as far as getting, actually it's going to need a strip job, so that's probably one that I can do. The paint, even though it was to me a rattle can, it's gone and crazed a little bit there on both sides. I might try sanding that down and fixing that up, but it's probably going to be a full strip, and then that, most unfortunate, not much I can do about it now, but probably a really good video to show stripping paint off a model. That's had a good couple of weeks, good couple of months or whatever to fully cure. The others, well, like I said, the Comet, I think I've had that on the go for 2 or 3 years now, and just haven't ever quite gotten around to finishing it off. But look, great little kit, strange little build, but yeah, just out of the box, nothing fancy. All the interiors all fixed up and painted, but anyway guys, thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you feel the need to. Give me a like, leave me a comment on, hey, you want to see me build something out of the stash. I'm probably going to work on some of the things like the flak guns, the anti-tank guns, some of the smaller stuff initially. I can get a full build out of those fairly quickly. They're a relatively simple kit, easy to detail, easy to work with. But there is the Panzer III and Panzer IV in there from Dragon that are unstarted. They've got photo etch in them. I'm going to have a go at doing those. There's another couple of mini art Dio bases and buildings that I'm going to try and work on as well. Once I get the river embankment Remagen bridge Dio finished. Other than that, yeah, well, I'm going to try and do a Tiger One weathering video soon with the Tiger One that is mostly finished. I'll just pause the camera for a second and go and grab it. So like I said, I'll do a weathering video probably on this Tiger One. This is the Dragon mid-production with Zimmerit, and as it is, it's just been painted, but put together as per the kit that is. So there is a set of fenders, front, sides and rear, that are aftermarket brass, photo etch, but that's basically the only thing that I've done to this. I wouldn't really say this is this is a work in progress, certainly, but it's not one that I've stopped on. This has also been running in parallel with the railway wagons. Brilliant kit, by the way. Absolutely recommend this one to anyone who's half keen on Tigers. It's going to be something like, I think the instructions call it's Normandy 44. I think the instructions say that it's Normandy 44, I think, the version that I'm painting up. This is basically ready for decaling now. I've just got to get a couple of coats of gloss coat on that, and that's something I picked up from Hobby Store on the weekend, so that's going to go on here, and yeah, decals next, then joys of weathering to come. So anyway, yeah, like I said, leave a comment, leave a like, share the video around. If there's something you want me to have a look at, give me a nod, give me a comment or send me a message or something like that, and yeah, talk to you guys soon. Take it easy, keep smiling, and hooroo.